Yeah, I think obviously a big victory for Labour. We'll await more detail, but I think a key focus for the Labour Party is going to be on the supply side. So a big issue for the house builders, obviously the last 12-18 months, been both weak demand and difficult planning system. The manifesto is quite clear. They want to push more growth. They see the house builders as being a key part of growth in the economy. And I think they will really focus on trying to ease the planning system initially. There isn't much on the demand side in terms of a new Help to Buy product, but planning is where we see things improving for the house builders.
Actually, one of their measures is actually restoring mandatory house building targets. Do you think this is actually going to help some of these house builder names?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's almost a quick win. So the last couple of years you saw that was reversed by Michael Gove and the Tory government. I think they can restore the mandatory target, so the planning authorities have to have a 5-year target. That will provide more planning supply coming through. Obviously it remains a very political, a local issue for constituencies, and there was a bit of a political hiatus, so that should clear. I think that, as well as more kind of presumption in favour of sustainable development, should help the supply in the very near term at the least.
Now, this is for the sector, but any sort of names within the house building space that you would highlight for the next couple of months?
Yeah, I think the next couple of months you've got the issues we just said, an easing kind of backdrop around planning. We'd expect interest rates coming down is going to be another significant positive catalyst, we think, for the sector. So I would highlight Barratt Developments. It's in the middle of trying to kind of complete a deal with Redrow, so they will end up, assuming that deal goes through, with a very strong land bank, very well positioned for the growth we expect from next year. Persimmon, MJ Gleeson, two house builders in the sector that are more towards the affordable end, lower average selling point, they should also benefit. And in the wider sector, obviously to build houses you're using more materials, more products, so the brick manufacturers, Ibstock, Forterra will be obvious names as well. Even if it's more social housing as well as private housing, the brick manufacturers should also benefit from that, as well as the wider product space.
I'm glad you brought up the issue of some of the deal making that we have seen in the space, or we could be about to see really. Ultimately, I just would like to understand in the months for the rest of this year really, is it more likely that we could see further consolidation in this part of the market?
Yeah, there's obviously two live deals at the moment. So Barratt are trying to acquire Redrow, and that looks as though it's going to go through. And then Bellway also in a situation with Crest Nicholson. I think the planning system's been difficult, and an easier way, arguably, to acquire land is by acquiring another company. Valuations remain very attractive in the sector, and the companies are issuing more equity to reduce the balance sheet risk to acquire companies. So I think those things don't go away in the near term, and therefore we wouldn't be surprised to see more consolidation in the sector over the next 6 to 12 months.
Interesting. Also, let's go back to the interest rate outlook. Ultimately, many market players are expecting now that the Bank of England is finally in a position to cut rates. But between now and the end of the year, at most, some expect that we could see 3 cuts. At most, again, at most. Ultimately, though, this is still an environment where we have relatively high interest rates. So ultimately, is this enough of a catalyst to actually propel the sector when the rates are still so high, really?
Yeah, I think it's a key point, and actually over and above the policy changes we'll likely see with the new government, interest rates are going to be the key driver. So affordability is a big issue. I think just the fact that interest rates start to be cut will help sentiment, and if people get a kind of view on the direction of interest rates coming down, it will help demand and affordability. So with interest rates settling, maybe 100 bips, 150 bips lower over the next 6 to 12 months, and then you have the mortgage rates coming down, that I think will also be a very, very key kind of driver of the sector going forward on the demand side, combined with hopefully an easier planning situation.